Security guards moved to block her path, but Lydia Matthews didn't slow down. She pushed through the revolving doors of Sterling Tower with the partnership agreement clutched in her trembling hand, her heart hammering against her ribs. "Ma'am, you can't go up without an appointment," the lead guard said, stepping in front of the elevators. Lydia slapped the document on the marble reception desk. "Tell Damien Sterling that John Matthews' daughter is here. Tell him I own half of everything in this building, and if he doesn't see me in the next 5 minutes, my lawyers will be here in 10. The receptionist's perfectly made-up face went pale as she skimmed the document. She grabbed her phone, her voice dropping to a frantic whisper. When she hung up, she wouldn't meet Lydia's eyes. "Mr. Sterling will see you now. 60th floor." Lydia's hands shook as she stepped into the elevator. She'd come too far to turn back now. If you're enjoying this story, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Now, let's see how this plays out. 3 days earlier, Lydia had been sitting in a lawyer's office, still numb from her father's funeral. John Matthews had died of a sudden heart attack, leaving her with nothing but medical debt and a small apartment filled with memories. The lawyer had slid an envelope across his desk with a grave expression. "Your father left specific instructions that you receive this only after his death," he'd said. Inside was a partnership agreement dated 30 years ago. Lydia had read it 3 times before the words made sense. Her father, her kind, gentle father who'd worked as a mechanic his entire life, had co-founded Sterling Tech with Robert Sterling. 50-50 partners. And according to the contract, those shares passed to heirs. "This can't be real," Lydia had whispered. "Why wouldn't he tell me?" "I don't know, Ms. Matthews. But I verified the document's authenticity. It's ironclad." Also in the envelope was a letter in her father's handwriting. ** Lydia, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I never told you about Sterling. Robert was my best friend, we built that company in his garage with nothing but dreams. But something happened, something that broke us apart. I left to protect you and your mother. There's a safety deposit box at First National Bank. Box 447. Whatever Damien tells you about me, know this, I never stole anything. The truth is in the box. I love you. Fight for what's yours, **. That night, Lydia had researched Damien Sterling. The photos showed a man in his early 30s with sharp features and colder eyes. Forbes called him a genius. Business Insider called him ruthless. Sterling Empire was worth $2.3 billion. Her half would be over $1 billion. But it wasn't about the money. It was about her father's name. It was about the truth. The elevator doors opened on the 60th floor, and Lydia stepped into a world of glass and steel. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city like a kingdom. And standing behind a massive desk, his back to her as he gazed out at his empire, was Damien Sterling. He didn't turn around. "You have 60 seconds before I call security." Lydia's voice came out steadier than she felt. "My father was John Matthews. Your father's partner." Now Damien turned, and Lydia's breath caught. The photos hadn't done him justice, or maybe they had, because the man looking at her had the kind of cold, controlled fury that could destroy lives. "John Matthews," Damien said slowly, "was a thief who stole my father's prototype and tried to sell it to competitors. My father chose mercy over prosecution and bought him out. Whatever fairy tale he told you was a lie. That's not true." Lydia stepped forward, sliding the partnership agreement onto his desk. "This contract is legally binding. My lawyers confirmed it." Damien barely glanced at it. Instead, he opened a drawer and pulled out another document. "Separation agreement, signed by your father. He forfeited all claims to the company." Lydia grabbed it, scanning quickly. Her father's signature was at the bottom, but, "This is dated 6 months after the partnership agreement." It doesn't void the original contract. It voids it when the partner in question committed corporate espionage. Damien's voice was ice. If you pursue this, I will bury you in legal fees. I'll drag your father's name through every newspaper in the country. Is that really how you want him remembered? Lydia's hands shook, but she forced herself to meet his eyes. My father was a good man. And I'm not afraid of you. Then you're a fool. She turned and walked out before he could see her cry. In her car, Lydia let the tears come. Then she dried her eyes and drove to First National Bank. The safety deposit box contained an old USB drive, photographs of her father and Robert Sterling, young, smiling, arms around each other, and a prototype blueprint with both their names on it. Whatever had happened between their fathers, it was more complicated than either of them knew. Her phone rang that evening. Unknown number. Ms. Matthews, this is Susan Park, head of legal for Sterling Empire. Mr. Sterling would like to propose an alternative to litigation. 2 hours later, Lydia was back in Damien's office. This time he gestured to the chair across from him. She sat. I'll acknowledge your father's shares, Damien said without preamble. Conditionally. I'm listening. 1 year. You work as my co-CEO. We run the company together. If, at the end of that year, you can prove your father didn't betray mine, you keep the 50%. If you can't, you sign over your shares for $10 million and walk away. Lydia's mind raced. $10 million was more money than she'd ever dreamed of. But it wasn't justice. And if I refuse? Then we go to war. Court battles for the next 5 years. Your father's reputation destroyed in the press. Your choice, Ms. Matthews. She thought of the USB drive. The photographs. Her father's letter. 1 year. But I want an office, full access to company records, and a seat on the board. Damien's smile was sharp as a knife. Welcome to Sterling Empire, partner. The first week was hell. Lydia moved into a glass office next to Damien's, and the whispers followed her everywhere. At the board meeting, a silver-haired man named Richard sneered, "Who is this girl?" "Damien, what are you playing at?" "Lydia Matthews is John Matthews' daughter," Damien said coolly. "She'll be working closely with me for the foreseeable future." When Lydia suggested expanding into sustainable technology, Richard laughed. "Stick to taking pictures, sweetheart. Leave business to people who understand it." Lydia's voice cut through the room. "I own half this company. I don't need your permission to speak." Damien raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Later that night, when they were both still in the office at midnight, he appeared in her doorway. "You don't belong here," he said. Lydia didn't look up from her laptop. "Then why does my father's name appear on 30% of the original patents?" She turned the screen toward him. Early company filings, innovation records, all bearing John Matthews' signature alongside Robert Sterling's. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Damien's face. "Where did you get these?" "Company archives. You said I had full access." He studied the screen, then her. "My father never mentioned this. Maybe your father didn't tell you everything." Damien left without another word. Late one night, when the building was empty, Lydia accessed the oldest company files. She found financial records, emails from 30 years ago, documentation of her father's signature project, a revolutionary chip design. But according to the official records, it had been solely developed by Robert Sterling. She inserted the USB drive from the safety deposit box. Video files, dated 3 decades ago. Grainy security footage from the old office. The first clip showed her father and Robert in a lab, young and excited. Robert's voice was tinny through the old speakers. "John, your chip design is genius. This will change everything." Her father laughed. "Our design, Rob. We're partners, remember? They shook hands, both grinning. The next clip showed them arguing. The audio was corrupted, only static, but their body language screamed conflict. Robert looked angry, her father pleading. The final clip broke her heart. Her father packing boxes, tears streaming down his face while Robert stood with his back turned. Lydia wiped her eyes. The video proved collaboration but not theft. She needed more. She didn't hear Damien enter until he spoke. You're looking into the past. Lydia spun around. Wouldn't you? Damien moved closer, and Lydia realized he looked exhausted. My father never spoke about John. When I asked as a kid, he'd get this look on his face. Like grief. Maybe he missed him, Lydia said softly. Maybe. Damien gestured to her screen. What did you find? She showed him the videos. Watched his expression shift from suspicion to confusion to something that might have been pain. They were friends, he said finally. Real friends. What if we're both wrong about what happened? Lydia asked. What if neither of them was the villain? Damien met her eyes. Then who was? The answer came a week later. Lydia found a name recurring in old emails, Harold Vance, an early investor who was still on the board as senior advisor. Vance, Damien said when she showed him. He's been with the company since the beginning. Then he knows what really happened. They confronted him together. Harold Vance's office was all dark wood and leather, and the elderly man looked nervous when they walked in together. We need to talk about our fathers, Lydia said without preamble. What really happened in 1994? Vance's polished smile slipped. That's ancient history. Why dredge it up? Because one of them died thinking he was a thief, Lydia said, her voice breaking. Because the other died carrying guilt that destroyed him. We deserve the truth. Sometimes the truth is better left buried. Damien's voice was deadly quiet. We're not asking, Harold. The old man seemed to crumple. He sank into his chair, suddenly looking every one of his 70 years. Your fathers were brilliant. Too brilliant. They were going to revolutionize the industry with that chip design. But I had investors, powerful people who'd lose billions if Sterling Tech's innovation succeeded. I couldn't let that happen. Lydia's blood ran cold. What did you do? I planted evidence, Vance said. Emails from John's account offering to sell the prototype to competitors. I made sure Robert found them. You framed my father? Lydia could barely breathe. Robert believed it. He was devastated. John was like a brother to him. But he forced John out of the company. Vance looked at Damien. John wouldn't fight back. He said he didn't want to destroy Robert's dream. So he took the fall. He sacrificed everything to protect your father's vision. Tears streamed down Lydia's face. And my father spent 30 years carrying that shame. Robert discovered the truth 5 years later, Vance continued. He found the original emails on my old computer. The guilt consumed him. He tried to find John, to make amends, but John had disappeared. Your father, he said to Damien, died of a broken heart as much as a heart attack. Damien's hands were clenched into fists. Why are you telling us this now? Because I'm dying. Cancer. 6 months, maybe less. And I'm tired of carrying this. Vance looked at them both. I destroyed 2 good men and their families. I'm sorry. For whatever that's worth. The board voted unanimously to remove Vance and turn evidence over to prosecutors. Lydia's ownership of 50% was legally confirmed. She should have felt victorious. Instead, she felt hollow. A month later, Damien called her into his office. Your year is up tomorrow, he said. The company is legally yours. Half of it, anyway. Lydia looked at the city spread out below them. I've been thinking about what they would have wanted. And? They built this together. Maybe we should too. Real partners this time. Damien studied her for a long moment. No more secrets? No more secrets. He held out his hand. She took it. Instead of shaking, he pulled her closer. There's one problem. What? Company policy prohibits co-COs from dating. Lydia's heart skipped. Good thing I own half the company. I vote to change the policy. All in favor? He smiled, genuinely smiled, for the first time since she'd met him. Then he kissed her. 6 months later, the renamed Sterling Matthews empire announced a new sustainable technology division. Lydia kept a photograph on her desk, the old one of their fathers, arms around each other, next to a new one of her and Damien at the ribbon cutting. She was reviewing quarterly reports when her assistant knocked. Ms. Matthews? There's someone here to see you. She says it's urgent. Who? She won't give her name. But she says she's John Matthews' daughter. Lydia's blood turned to ice. That's impossible. My father didn't have other children. The woman who walked in was about 40, with Lydia's eyes and her father's smile. She held a manila envelope. Hello, Lydia, she said. I'm Sarah. And there's something about our father you need to know. The partnership with Robert Sterling? That wasn't the secret he was hiding. She slid the envelope across the desk. The real inheritance is in here. And it's worth so much more than half of this company. Lydia stared at the envelope, her hands frozen. Through the glass wall, she could see Damien in his office, on the phone, unaware. Who are you? Lydia whispered. Sarah smiled sadly. Open the envelope. Then decide if you really want to know. Before you go, if this story got you hooked, smash that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me if you think Lydia should open that envelope. Share this with someone who loves a good twist. Part 2 is coming, but only if you want it. Do you? Whispered Stories, where every whisper tells a story.